You and your operation are reckless. Abort this mission now.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Backlot Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel. Today I'm joined by my ungentlemanly co-host Tanner Dykstra, and today we're here to talk about The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, the new Guy Ritchie movie with a whole host of wacky characters that we are here to give you our thoughts on. But if you have seen this movie or other Guy Ritchie movies and you want to talk to us about them, leave some comments in the comments section, join our Discord where you can talk to us, and like and subscribe and all that, Tanner, because we are going to be reviewing lots of Guy Ritchie movies because he doesn't stop making movies.
He don't stop, baby.
No, we actually didn't review either of his movies that he put out last year.
That's true.
Because we didn't care.
Though I did see them.
Yes.
In theaters.
But
much
now,
like,
we have both seen The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare in theaters. We saw it a little bit early, which was fun.
a little early access screening with a bunch of Guy Ritchie fans by the sound of it.
And Tanner, would you count yourself amongst Guy Ritchie fans? This is question one.
No, I would not.
Would you count yourself among the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare fans?
Sort of.
Okay,
I think
sure.
this movie's all right.
Yeah.
I think that it is amongst his better work that I have seen.
Absolutely. Well, I'll get into that.
But I am not a huge Guy Ritchie fan.
Yeah.
But this one seems to be getting a lot of praise, and for understandable reasons. I think it is very accessible. I think it is a lot of fun, but seems to be falling into some trappings that I'm finding with some of Guy Ritchie's more recent work.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Tucker?
No, I enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
I don't think there's any more meat than that. It's an enjoyable film.
Yeah.
I think it is well made.
Yep.
I like the editing. I think everyone turns in a solid performance. Yep. It is, I think, a little bit weak on the writing side in terms of the characters, and the overall plot is very, very simple. Mm-hmm. But in the moment-to-moment, enjoying fun sequences, seeing fun characters banter back and forth, seeing some fun editing, it is a well-made movie, and easily, to me, far and away my favorite Guy Ritchie movie.
Sure. Okay.
I actually dislike Guy Ritchie's movies.
Uh-huh.
I have seen 7 films from him, which is not his entire filmography. It's about half.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of movies to see from one guy.
Yep.
And I liked 1.5 of them.
Sure.
I saw the Man from U.N.C.L.E. in theaters a
I.
long time ago, and I remember liking it, but I don't remember enough to say definitively okay,
Henry
it's a great
Cavill.
movie. Yeah. But every other movie I've seen from him, I thought was bad.
Yeah.
And so going into this movie, I had very, very low expectations.
Sure.
I'm like, look, this guy just kind of churns out mediocre action adjacent films. But I actually thought that this was a step above in terms of quality.
I think so too. I think it is
Not a particularly high bar to clear.
No. But I think it benefits from having very interesting story material.
Sure.
That being, hey, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which was a group of, I guess, rogue soldiers, or soldiers of fortune, maybe, back in the
Ruse de Guerre?
Ruse de Guerre, back in the 1940s, who basically were assigned to a mission to go blow up some Nazi ships that were used to supply U-boats back in the day. And you get some charismatic people on board. You get your Henry Cavills, who's doing a little bit of like an unhinged thing, but ultimately, I don't know, as you mentioned, not a lot of characterization there.
Yeah.
Big hot commodity in Alan Ritchson recently, coming off of Jack Reacher, and Eiza Gonzalez, and a few other people in supporting roles. They're having a good time.
Yeah.
And Guy Ritchie knows how to edit something, put something together quite frenetically.
Yeah.
I just found that energy seems to be lacking more and more in his recent work.
Sure.
And this can do that because it's got some moments of bombast, some explosions, some like really over the top, just mowing down Nazis, and I'm all here for that. I think those are the best parts of the movie. But also, I felt like a lot of this movie felt like it was quite sedated.
Sure.
I don't know what are your thoughts there?
Well, I want to focus a little bit in on the cast because I think the cast is interesting because I almost feel that the characters are mostly underutilized.
Sure,
Even though I don't think that there's any character that is so backgrounded where it's like, oh, they're not really even a factor. Almost none of the characters are particularly memorable. They're enjoyable enough to watch while you're watching it.
Yes.
But the standouts for me were Alan Ritchson and Eiza Gonzalez. I thought they were both really fun. They were leaning into their roles. I think the two of them were given the most personality and moments of interesting action and or tension. But Henry Cavill, Henry Golding, Alex Pettyfer, Hero Fine Tiffin, those are like the 4 white guys. And they're just kind of around. And it's actually very surprising that in my mind,
by the way, Henry Golding not white.
True. That's a great point.
I get you.
But Henry Golding, Actually, he's barely a factor in this movie.
He's
He's
like-
like, oh, he's the explosions expert. He's in a couple scenes,
Yeah.
and he does a couple of things.
Yeah.
That is a very big underutilization
What we're
of Henry
doing with the
Golding.
Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is we're sort of like taking the bones of
Yeah.
what is like a heist movie, essentially, is you get your specialized guys, and
Yes,
they're doing
yes.
their mission.
And I like that trope.
I like that trope too, but
Yeah.
it is quite tropey and quite underutilized here. This isn't some Ocean's 11 where they all feel important to the
Yeah.
process and like they have their own distinct personalities. A lot of them are just like, I'm a sort of swarthy tough guy and I'm
Yeah.
here to fuck shit up.
Yeah, and that's actually specifically a problem I think with Henry Cavill, who is the lead of this movie.
Correct.
But I ultimately think he leaves a lesser impact than some
Yeah.
of the other people that I talked about, because while he's given the moments in the trailer where he's like sticking his hand out, like making jokes, that is a small part of his character.
Well, Tucker, what
ultimately.
about the big part of his character personality where he wants to take people's clothes?
And steals things. Yes,
steals
yes.
things.
That's kind of funny,
Yeah.
but it ultimately doesn't matter. It's played for a couple of jokes, but
I mean, he's just kind of like, it's just kind of filling in the shadow of his characters that, he's roguish, he doesn't
Yeah.
play by the rules, that kind of thing.
no. But the interesting thing is, like, the not playing by the rules part, I think, doesn't really feel that impactful because the rules that they are breaking are good rules to break because they're going to go make sure that the Nazis don't have supplies and okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then I think on the other end, the people that are making the rules that they are breaking are really poorly defined. They are just
sure.
generic background people in British government that are
Carrie
kind of
Elways is like an admiral of some
yeah,
kind.
and he's the
then-
only one that's involved in that that gets any kind of characterization. But the people who are like advocating for the rules that
sure.
they're breaking
Yeah.
show up like 3 times.
Yeah, and
I
they're
don't
like,
recognize them.
Churchill, you need to stop this.
Yeah, but because there's a little about what is the structure that they are breaking, it's like, no, yeah, you go do it. Like, it feels like they can do whatever they want, and
I
there's
think
not really
this gets into a
consequences.
larger issue that there's not a lot of attention to the film.
Yeah.
Whether it be from the
Oh, yes,
ungentlemanly aspect of what they are doing,
Yeah.
nor from the action sequences themselves. Because our heroes, as cool as they are and as fun as it is to see them mow down Nazis, never feel as though they are in danger. And there isn't even like a grounded sort of like rough and tumble aspect to it, like you might see from a superhero type character like John Wick, essentially. You never think that John Wick is going to die in any of the situations that he's never think that he's going to die when you're like halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
But the stakes are there, the weight of the impacts are there. That is not happening here with the Ministry of Ungentlemanly
and that
Warfare.
is this movie's biggest flaw. It is very fun and pulpy to watch them tear through. It's like Dead Rising with zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they just don't exist.
I tried to count at one point. I was like, how are these Nazis even shooting at them?
They feel like stormtroopers,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
their aim is so bad and they're so bumbling that our heroes can come in and tear through them like paper, and even the like bullet sound effects just kind of feel like we're poking holes
Yeah,
in paper.
exactly.
And I think that the fact that they never feel like there's real stakes for these characters, and then again what we were talking about with there not being a lot of tension on a larger scale, and then even in the like interpersonal tension moments, which are mostly centered around Eiza Gonzalez, who is more of a spy, and she's
Yes.
put into this situation.
Her
with,
and Babs Olayaskmukun.
Yes,
I believe
and-
that I probably just butchered that.
yeah,
but
that's fine.
I tried.
And then they're all going up against Til Schweiger, who is the Nazi general.
Yes.
Those are some reasonable moments of tension. But even though Til Schweiger is giving I think a very good performance as a Nazi leader, he almost ends up not feeling intimidating because nothing he does ever has an actual impact on our characters.
Very true.
He diverts them for a few minutes and he says some rude things. They go beyond rude, but you get what I'm saying. I never felt like he was a force to be reckoned with, just kind of a dumb Nazi to be played around with.
Yeah.
And that means that the villain's kind of weak and the tension's kind of weak. And so, again, it's pulpy and fun, but I wish it was pulpy and fun with a sense of stakes to it.
Yeah.
But this movie entirely lacks that.
No, I feel like we're being overly negative, so I want to circle back around to the positive of what I found here.
I think that those are the only negatives I have.
Sure. Okay. I also think that the film's quite dark. Not
lighting wise,
not lighting wise, not like mood or genre wise. It's like I couldn't see a lot of what was happening in the third act and stuff like that. And also, like, we had mentioned the thing about the gunshots. Of like, are they supposed to be silenced weapons?
Oh yes, they use a lot of silenced weapons.
Yeah. So anyway, talk about the positives.
Yes.
The positives of the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, of which I think it's about half and half for me personally. The action sequences, from all that we said, are fun.
Yeah.
Like I think the best one is probably that assault on the Nazi camp to break out.
Alex Pettiford,
anonymous British man number 4.
Appleyard.
Appleyard.
They always call him Apple.
That's true. I think that's the best one. I mean, that's the most like just tearing through these guys like they're paper. But when you get a guy on like a giant Browning machine gun, and Alan Ritchson is firing arrows with such velocity that they're going through people and lodging themselves in trees.
Yeah. And it has that sort of John Wick element to it where the action is so over the top that you can get moments of like almost Mortal Kombat-esque fatalities of like, that's not how physics works, but it's fun to watch. And I do think that the choreography is great. I think that people are flying and the ungentlemanly people are posing in cool positions and I love any time that Alan Ritchson comes onto screen.
Yeah,
because he's using unconventional weapens.
Yes,
like
he's using a bow and arrow and like a Bowie knife. And
and he
like
like picks up a fire extinguisher, like beats a guy's head, and it's like he's so much fun. And I think he's far the standout for action.
So.
But he's also in a lot of the movie.
Yeah,
so it's just like, oh, whenever he's on screen, I'm like, hey, I like that guy.
Yeah. I also think the opening scene of the that boat, the boat that they're on is quite good.
That's a great scene, yeah.
That there's a little bit of a tension with the Nazi captain there, and then they have to, kill all the guys, and then there's a funny moment where we get a little bit of the Henry Cavill being unhinged as he is, where he like picks up the Nazi captain's body and like waves it at the boat.
Yeah, that's fun.
And then you see the Nazi boat out in the distance explode because Henry Golding had been underwater the whole time planting explosives.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Like I think there's a lot of that. The third act, as I said, I think it's a little bit too fragmented. We're hopping around a bit too much. Lack of tension.
There's so many people to keep track of.
Yeah.
That even though the goal is very clear, they establish this many times of, okay, the lights are going to go out, and we're going to split up, and we're going to get the boats, and then we're going to, in an admittedly interesting and cool idea of having to steal the boat.
I agree. It's much more interesting than blowing up the boat, than having to adjust the plan. It's like, okay, we have to, filling in like that heist thing I had said earlier, we have to steal these boats.
Now, to be fair and unfair to that element, I do think it is a cool idea, and I think that it makes that last action set piece and last act a lot more interesting. But the moment in which they figure out that they can't blow up the boat, it's like, oh, okay, it's the boat's metal plated, it's reinforced. They just like go around in a circle and say that like 10 times, and they're like, gee whiz, what are we gonna do? And then they just come up with it right on the spot. Like, okay, what about this other option? And and I think that kind of goes back to the weakness in the writing of the tension. There's no tension because they immediately figure it out. There's no like waffling back and forth and failing an option before they come up with this sort of on the fly. They're sitting out in the water like, damn, it sucks that that boat is reinforced. I'll just steal it. like just immediately like, and then they just go through with it and it works. And so I think that it's a pro and con with that.
Yeah, I think there is something to the nonchalantness that makes it feel quite fun, but I think that feeling would have hit home.
Yeah, it's kind of weightless.
Under better direction or writing or what have you.
Yeah.
Quick thing also, since I remembered, Eiza Gonzalez has this moment where she's like, I'm the best at shooting. I'm the best at shooting ever. And then she gets to shoot one guy in the forehead point blank.
Yes. Yeah, she is... I wouldn't say she's underutilized. She's underutilized in an action sense. I think that in terms of a characterization and, frankly, maybe even acting moments.
I think she probably has quite comparable screen time. To like Henry Cavill, who said it the lead.
Yeah, and I think that she's certainly the one that made the most impact on me. But given the situation that she's in, she's never given the chance to use the skills that we know the character has, which is a little bit disappointing. Because I can easily imagine her fleeing to the boat sequence where the guy she's with is driving and she's on the back of the car, just like sniping one by one.
She's doing headshots.
But they kind of just like gloss over this. Like,
that's too bad.
Yeah.
What else? There's also like your expendable kind of characters with some. I don't know. They're like rogue, or what do I say? Rebels in the area that they're in. Yeah. They're headed up by this guy. I'm trying to find his name. He's like
the college guy.
The college guy who he knew.
Cricket?
He
doesn't know Henry Cavill. They both went to the same school and they were able to like recite the like slogan to each other.
That's
like,
right.
Hey.
And he's good at cricket.
Yes.
And he leads like a gang of like rebels in the area.
Yeah.
And they're just basically there to get shot, so our heroes don't.
Yes. And they never get characterization.
No, of course not.
They kind of just like act as like a squad behind them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Tucker, anything else with the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare?
No, and I think that is just because it's a very simple movie.
I think
at
so
the end of
too.
the day, it is well made. I think that the outside of the lighting, I think the cinematography is good. I think the editing is good. I think the performances are good. The idea is definitely there.
I
It's
agree.
a great idea for a movie, but ultimately under sloppy direction in terms of bringing out the best of the characters and balancing the characters in a meaningful way, and then writing that kind of underserves a lot of the weight and the weight of this concept. It ends up feeling kind of paper thin.
Yeah, it's quite thin.
yeah.
I find it quite low key as
Sure.
well.
Oh,
It doesn't-
yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's pushing itself on you. You know, it's got not like doesn't have any oomph behind it. I
Yeah.
would say it's kind of, and that's what I was getting at when I said I feel like a lot of Guy Ritchie's recent movies have felt like this. They feel a little bit paint by numbers.
Yeah.
They feel a little bit. I don't want to say lazy, but just a little bit like in one ear out the other kind of thing.
No,
they don't feel
that's
like they
definitely true.
have importance to them.
No, and this is not an important movie, but I think it is an entertaining one, and I can recommend this movie comfortably. It's like you're going to
Absolutely.
spend 2 hours with this, you're not going to regret it.
Yeah.
But it is one that doesn't warrant a lot of deep critique. It doesn't offer anything that you're going to be thinking about a lot, even in terms of action, which I think is a little bit disappointing because the ideas are there, the actors are there.
I would never say this about any movie, but if you were to do this, this would be a great one to just put on the TV and then kind of like do chores or walk in and out of the room during. It's that kind of movie.
But you're not saying that you should do that.
I'm not saying that you should. I've never say that you should watch a movie like that. But if you were to do that with a movie, it would probably be the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, of which I will give a score of 5.4.
Okay, I'm gonna go above a 6. I'm gonna go
Okay.
6.3 out of 10. I think this is a good movie.
Sure.
And I think maybe that's just because I was surprised that I enjoyed it.
Yep.
Because I do not like Guy Ritchie's movies.
Sure,
and so when I'm sitting in the theater, I'm like, oh, that was a cool moment of editing.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, they're actually kind of killing it right now.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, fun time.
Fun time.
Fun time.
Fun time indeed.
And also, we got to see it with a full crowd of
That's
people that were
right.
excited by it, and that certainly helped the energy.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been lacking if it was us watching this at home.
Yes.
like and you know, Joe and Sam aren't into it, and they're like,
we're
that
on
would
our
have
phone.
dragged that down. But
Yeah, quite a bit.
but we had a good time.
Yeah.
So go see it while it's in theaters. We're never going to tell you not to go see a movie in theaters.
Of course.
But this is one that you can take your dad to, take your
Absolutely.
family to,
Yeah.
not the kids.
Very
It's a
accessible.
violent movie.
Yes.
But it's a good movie just to say, hey, it's a Nazi killing action movie out.
World War II movie.
Yeah.
Dads love that kind of thing.
Go sit down in theaters and see it. But if you want to hear more reviews of movies in theaters, that's what we do here, Tanner.
That's what we do.
Do a lot of that.
Uh-huh.
Subscribe, like the channel, all of that. Bye-bye.